Welcome to Breaking Banks Africa. I'm Matteo Rizzi, and together with my co-host Nadine Doro, let us take you on a journey of entrepreneurship, innovation, and vibrant ecosystems Africa has to showcase. More than 1 in 4 people will be African by 2050, this continent being already the youngest of the planet. You can't miss these stories. This is Breaking Banks Africa. Let's roll.
Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Banks Africa, episode number 7. My name is Matteo Rizzi, the executive producer of the show, and I'm here with my dear friend, CEO and founder of D-Evo, Artur. Welcome to Breaking Banks Africa show.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Matteo. It's my pleasure to join and be part of it.
So, I think that, people will listen and see, the both of us and see what are these two white guys talking about Africa? Why are they even legitimate? And people might be a bit more aware of my work in Africa simply because, it's even just in this podcast, we have been doing it for a few episodes, but I do know for sure, by the way, you're just back from Equatorial Guinea, and I dare, a lot of non-African listeners to even know where that country is, even if I love it, by the way, is one of the few where they speak Spanish, by the way, which is also a language that you know well. But Artur, please give us a little bit of. I know that 40 years of careers is complicated to say it in a couple of minutes, but do your best.
I will resume quite simple. I had worked for the best bank in Portugal, and the other ones have to forgive me. And I had learned a lot about banking on that time. Majority of people that know me know that half of my family is from Angola. So I got used to the Angola ways. In 2016, I started I started my own company. And it was a label that Swift had at that time that was Swift Ready Services, the company that were certified to do Swift. And in a few years, we become the most known provider of Swift services in Angola. Now we are providing Swift services, but not Swift services. The world is not more about Swift, it's about payments. And Swift is just a platform with a standard with a very good enrichment. In Africa, we have a lot of challenges. Swift sometimes is not the fastest or the right way to address them. So when we engage with Africa and we love what we do and we love Africa, we will find other ways of working with people and working with payments. All my background is in payments, and Africa has a big challenge on payments, as you are aware, and you know well the challenges. In Africa, the cross-border payments are still a challenge. We have the mobile money coming up and helping. Everyone knows the success case of M-Pesa in Kenya, but that was a thing that people want to replicate everywhere. But then we have challenges like in Tanzania of the interoperability of the wallets. And that is rising that kind of challenges. So I love these challenges. I want to be a part of it. I understand how us in Africa do things. And it's a pleasure to talk with you about this matter.
There we go. So as you were saying, you started in Angola, and Angola is actually a fascinating market, a little bit under the radar for the whole fintech space, and with a reason, right? Because you can't really deal with payment innovation the typical fintech solutions that are bringing value added, on existing payment rails, if you don't fix the payment rails first. And interoperability is one of the challenges that you mentioned so well. So I know for a fact that you work in many other that I call frontiers market in Africa, right? What are, let's say, when you go and from Guinea-Bissau to Mozambique to Angola to for example Zambia, I know you're working a lot. You mentioned Tanzania. How I always talk about the different velocities of Africa. How do you see this frontiers market evolving? I almost want to say in the past decade, probably 10 years ago, they were nowhere in the radar. But do you see progress?
I do see a lot of progress. We have a lot of talent in Africa. The challenge that the African people have make them think out of the box and find solutions that even some Europeans never ever thought about it. And that is challenging for us that we are going step by step with them. I don't know if you are aware, but instant payments for banking has arrived now to Angola. It's in a first start, it is in the first staging of implementation, but we are talking about instant payments in Africa. So they are not that behind as some people think. They have a big issue to solve, in my opinion, that is interoperability between countries. Because one of the things that SWIFT, and I know that SWIFT is not the topic of the conversation, but what SWIFT still allows is the cross-border payments to work from one place to the other and trustful. I do believe that when African governments are able to set their own systems and correspondent banking internally, SWIFT will have big issues to solve in Africa to be as competitive as they are today. A wallet from AfriMoney, for instance, you are not able to use in every country. You may have it in one country, a wallet from AfriMoney, but you arrive to the other country and you are not able to use. So there are still also legislation issues to be taken care, harmonization of the laws between African countries, so we can have these cross-border payments based on FinTech solutions that will decrease the price and the enrichment of these solutions to the population.
Let's double click a little bit on this, let's say, cross-border interoperability, okay, which is a big theme in every single conference. We talk about it, but maybe, since Breaking Banks has like a larger audience, we can maybe, I want to say, simplify a little bit the topic, right? So there is certainly a Rails problem, like the physically be able to use one wallet, send money to another wallet. So this wallet need to talk. There is a currency problem, of course, because very often dollar is the money, that the intermediary money used to exchange. And, in a country like Ghana, for example, for obvious reasons related to dollar, the cedis went up, appreciate itself over 30%, in the past 6 months, which is, and I know for a fact because, a few of our consultants, are from there, and if we pay them in dollars, and all of a sudden the cedis amount of that related dollars, suddenly dropped, and and in a way that is very hard to see in other economies. So there is a currency problem, and then maybe there is like a dialogue problem, right? So the fact that we need regulators to talk, we need for them the right platforms to talk, and of course, there are political interests to be aligned. So that these are the three immediate challenges that come to mind. Am I forgetting someone, or that that's sort of an accurate description of what the challenges are.
No, I do agree with you. And we have a thing called African Union that has a body also for payments. And I think that what they can do, they are not doing, that is work more with the local governments to have this standardized way of doing things. Let's stop in a basic format. We need to have a standard approach to the same problem because major of these countries have the same problem. We have the currency problem and cryptocurrencies with the
Stablecoins
can help. We have the blockchain for trust because one of the things that we do not have in Africa is trust on payments. But we have a big advantage as, and I'm sorry to say, major of the young population do not trust banks and trust fintechs. There is a big opportunity of evolution using the new technologies. And blockchain can help to build that trust. I do believe that after we build that trust, even between states, countries, because blockchain allows us not to be able to change information between the transactions, that can help us to stabilize even the relations between one coin and the other. For instance, you were mentioned, I was in Guinea Equatorial and I was in Sierra Leone. There are two countries. One uses XFA, other CFA. They have a relation one-to-one, but they are not directly convertible. You cannot go to a bank and you have a CFA account and deposit XFA. You need to do a FX exchange. These things are easy to solve if the governments want. But for the young generation, they don't care. They want to pay things with their wallet. And that's where African Union, and I'm talking about African Union just because it's a body that congregates all the African countries, nothing political. One place where people can talk about payments and discuss what is the best solution for Africa. And even if you are not African or I am not African, we love Africa and we want the best for Africa. And you are able to work and listen to them because they know what is there for them. They are the ones that know what is needed on their country. We are just, because of our experience, accelerators of this step that they want to take.
Artur, it's funny that you and I are having this conversation right now because I actually started my day talking with an entity that I can't really mention because it's, let's say, still work in process. And we were talking about a supervisory tech accelerator, and what I will let's say pick out of that conversation was that there are an incredible number of Pan-Africa entities, and I'm not sure if I mention like a lot of them, but like FSD is one of them, right? So FSD is a Pan-African organization. They have headquarters in different countries. They are funded by donors, but also funded locally. They have a lot of initiatives, and there are so many. Like I mentioned, it's FSD because we have our common friend, which I salute, the CEO of FSD Mozambique, Esselina Macome. Hi, I'm sure she listens to the show. And the reason why, and of course I'm not pinpointing them, but I'm saying that. There is an abundance of players in Africa, and sometimes a lot have the same sort of job description, in their, let's say, even in their website or when they explain what they do. And they are funded by different donors. Sometimes I even see donors funding not competing, because at the end of the day, we are all working towards the same goal, right? But it's true that if the same donor in some cases is funding two different initiatives that are supposed to do the same thing, technically speaking, they both need to justify the donor's money, right? So it's a little bit of so. Do you experience, especially in frontiers market, which is your, certainly your territory of predilection, because with the Swift integrator, obviously, it's easier for you to work in, let's say, nascent or in certainly nascent fintech systems. Do you experience that the same? Because for me, it's very strong.
I do. I talk with a lot of people when I travel around these countries. And one of the things that surprised me is the old world, and I call the old world the banking world, are still much better organized than the fintechs. And the fintech world, with even major of the countries have bodies to regulate them, etc., but they do not work together in between the fintech organizations. Country with another country, major of times they don't work together, and they have this issue. You have some investors that are donating money to achieve something, but they are not coordinating their efforts. They are doing one way, maybe sometimes even the same way, but on both sides. They are losing the effort of each other. And when you go to banking, you see that the banking associations work better between them country to country. And even their work, even if I do not believe in banking, I'm one of the guys that believe that in 10 years we will not have bankings, we will have any other thing to do all the payments and take care of our money. But for now, banking are still the structure that is robust. I do believe that fintechs need to take some steps on direction of reorganizing as a board that with a common purpose, and they have the common purpose. That is why it's so, in a certain way, funny, because all of them have the same purpose. You talk to entrepreneurs and you see, I want to do these payments, I want to pay salaries, I want to integrate this and this. But you talk in different countries, they are looking for the same solutions, but they are not talking to each other. And the solutions are developed separately.
So I want to talk about data a little bit, not in the like a pure, let's say, coding aspect of it, but more about like a payment data, credit scoring data, and the ability to collect them, access them, maneuver them. And it is always I want to say step two, right? So step zero is you build the rails, then you start implementing digital payments. And then immediately after, that gives you the opportunity to finally, give like a good business growth money to these small entrepreneurs. And by small entrepreneurs, I don't mean the startups. I mean like the people who sell like goods in a corner, right? The family small shops that needs like a small capital to develop. At the same time, today they are in a cash-based economy, so it's very complicated for them to find. How do you see the data aspect of the market being developed? You just like you came from the Guinea Equatorial. I would say that would be a good example, right? So there are a lot of mom and pop shops, mostly led by women. Very complicated to give them credit, and the only answer today is probably like go to the shark loans or to the whatever version of a shark loan is in a country. How do you solve the data problem?
It's a big challenge because when you don't have platforms that are unified, you are not able to collect. I like to talk about Brazil. Brazil has one thing that is CPF, that is the number ID number of a person. And everything is related with that ID number. Your credit score, the credit that the bank will give you, open an account in everything, even mobile company. Everything is about your CPF. If we are able to bring this idea to Africa, that will simplify everything. But I want to tell you a story that maybe you don't know. In Gambia, there is a company that is a FinTech company called Karingo that starts to use data to choose the places where they should open their FX stores. They have the data of people where they buy things and sell things. People allow them to use the data of their application, and they start to have the corridors where people go to buy things. That is a fintech using data to provide a better service and to know where they should have their representatives. And there are more stories like this across Africa, but they are not a coordination of the effort or a law to regulate it, because also collecting this information should have some rules.
There is also another challenge, Artur, right? Which is, so you mentioned this Gambia company, which is, it's funny because I remember very well, one of the winners of Tribe, which is also an entity that you know very well. People don't, actually, it's incredible how I forgot to say that you and I go back, what is it, like 20 years at least? You know, you were there at my first Tribe at Swift when it was created. I don't know. I lost count how many Cyboses we did together at Swift. So that's why I thought for sure that you had a lot of insights to share. So you mentioned Gambia, and the one of the challenges on the top of everything else is the fact that when you create a fintech in a country like Gambia, you inevitably get into a space where you need money to grow. And an investor will say, sure, but your market is too small. So what are your plans for expansion? And probably if you're a Gambian entrepreneur, getting into, of course, you want to go to a neighbor country, you want to expand the solution, but you might not fit the criteria for a traditional venture capitalist, that wants 10x the money in 5 years from now. So I also think, and I want to know what you think about it, that the way that we fuel the startups in Africa today has to change as well. People need to stop thinking about building unicorns, and they need to start thinking of building good businesses, right? Because maybe that solution in Gambia per se may become a very profitable local company that gives work to a bunch of people, and maybe it can stay like this. But then it needs an investor, maybe like an angel investor like you and me, right? Then that takes like over time, longer term, like a part of the profit as a normal small and medium business, So that's something that I believe also is a model that is not fitting the Africa ecosystem, and I want to know what you think about it.
I do agree with you, and let's just passing the publicity about Karingo. Karingo is a very nice company, but it has challenges. Gambia is a very small country that it's inside of Senegal. It's a country that is inside of Senegal, that it has another coin just on the border. And if they want to grow, they need to do cross-border payments. And then it comes the challenge and the big investment that they need to do according to the regulator, because any transaction needs to be reported. And that is a very huge cost for implementing on a small company. Legislators do not care about these things, and I'm sorry to say, but they are caring about the banks and the big transactions. But if we are able to make it easy, and find maybe you need an investor on the other side that help them to do Karingo too on the other side, and then have open accounts on both sides and work like correspondent banking and just close as we do the low cost international transfers. When we are talking about importing things from China, everyone buys from AliExpress and things like that. And what we do is bulk payments. We join all the small payments and send it as one payment. Maybe we can help these FinTech small companies to do this on the cross border and decrease the price. But you need an investor to help them because all their effort is on the local market. And when they want to grow, it's very hard for them.
Actually, Artur, I'm happy that this conversation takes this turn, because one of the things I always say is that let's double down on this. Karingo will be happy, and we'll share the link. I mean, why not? They're not sponsoring the show, but I'm happy to help them. So let's keep them as an example. You know what they need? They need maybe Artur and Matteo, like a teaming up with a good entrepreneur in Senegal. Give that small team of entrepreneurs in Senegal a year of salary as like an initial investment, and the technology can be imported from Gambia, of course, and that's how you set up, coaching and mentoring them with the technology that already exists. But this is not a traditional VC model, right? This is what we call the venture studio model, where you actually have an idea somewhere, you bring it somewhere else, you give the opportunity to a local entrepreneur to grow and build a company. You, of course, put beside her, some of the capabilities that, grayer and bolder people like us can give them. And that's how you make them grow. And is it going to be a multi-hundred million companies? Maybe not. But at the same time, if you keep it lean, it can be a profitable company, right? And probably this can become a piece of a bigger business that will buy them, not for hundreds of millions, but certainly for an exit that is significant as a first-time exit entrepreneur, for the founders. And that's how you keep the snowball growing. I mean, this is what I preach for the past, I want to say 5-6 years since, I started seriously, let's say, investing time and effort in emerging economies in Africa. And by emerging, I mean frontiers market. And that's how a solution like this could work, Artur.
I do agree with you, but I just would like to come to change a little bit the topic, because growing talent in Africa for me is also a very strong thing. I know that is the same for you, because they have the potential, they have the know-how, but they don't have the ignition that they need to start. And without improving the talent that they have, the potential of the talent that they have, Africa will stay as some of the people like. And the new generations do not want the same as the old generations. We need to work with fintechs, help them, because for me, it's not just the payments, it's all the knowledge that you bring when you explain how things work. And you have brilliant people in Africa, because in Africa we have so many challenges that people need to think out of the box, find new solutions. They cannot do as us in Europe, where you just copy something that the other country is doing. You adapt it to Portugal and it's okay. It will work. In Africa, no. You need to fight, you need to think, you need to have resilient solutions, and you need to be able to pay your bills every day.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. You you sort of, there is not, usually we say you push an open door, but in this case, there is no door. I mean, when we talk about the talent and the opportunity to nurture, local talent in Africa as a combination of actually both entrepreneurship skills as well as, let's say, tech skills, it is certainly something that we need to do more, better orchestrate, as well as focus on, every single one of the 54 countries in Africa has one or more universities, some sort of computer science, let's say tech education. In some cases, I know for a fact there are a few universities who don't have, for example, artificial intelligence as one of the courses. They do have basic computer skills, but certainly, in an era where you have, apps that can be developed without code, you can't still teach web development HTML, right? Which is unfortunately still the case in some of the countries. So this is certainly one of the, let's say, one of the focus areas that we all need to put our minds to. Couple of maybe to wrap up. Give us maybe you always like to tell stories of countries that people usually hardly ever hear mentioned. What do you think of Lusophone Africa? You mentioned Brazil. Brazil today is the country that is leading the pack in instant payment system. Peaks in 6 years, or I think it's 6 years, right? They grow exponentially.
Around 6 years.
Exactly. So now is a poster child for every single list, and I think it's fueling. When you mention Angola is, let's say, implementing this, they are all inspired by Brazil. Do you think that more countries will follow?
I had been talking with several Portuguese-speaking countries about adopting technologies similar to PIX. Not the PIX in itself, because the PIX in itself you cannot transpose to Africa, because you don't have central risk information as we do in Brazil. But the instant payments, as is done in PIX, you can. And who are the ones that are challenging? The FinTech entrepreneurs. Because banks are very traditional. And I'm sorry to tell this, and I ask all of them to forgive me, but most of the leaders of the banks are now too old to take risks. So they don't change what's going on their banks. And the world is changing very fast. So it is the FinTech entrepreneurs, insurtech entrepreneurs that can bring these new things. And remember that on FinTech and insurtech, there are a lot of other services, not technology, that can benefit from this and the learning skills that they need to have. And that is the opportunity of educate and make it a stronger continent. And I do love the way that some of them are doing this, but unfortunately, as you said in the beginning, they are doing in one country sometimes precisely the same thing that the other country is doing, and they are not even talking about it and using the same money from the same donators.
Artur, thank you very much for being with us. I knew that it would have been not only an interesting conversation, but a conversation from someone who takes probably, I met few people in my life that that take as many planes or more planes that I do. You're certainly, you're certainly one of them. Which it's a testimony of not only a lot of effort and dedication, but also a lot of passion. Because I know that a lot of them are I want to say business development trips that you take yourself on your own money to a country because you generally want to help, and And sometimes this conversation lead to something, and some other takes more time. But I also want to salute your work, because the continent needs more people that spend time on a pure, let's say, passion basis, and you're one of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matteo, for your words. And I know that you are very also keen on moving this. So anytime I can help, count on me.
I know, guys. And this is Breaking Banks episode 7, and it's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Africa, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with timepledge.org. Don't forget to share us out or shout out across social media. If there is something or someone you would like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next month on Breaking Banks Africa.